For the first time in years, the Giants got swept by the Washington Commanders. Welcome back to the Everything New York Giants podcast with New York Giants fangirl. I'm your host, Adrianna. Today, we are recapping the Giants versus Commanders game. And surprise, surprise, it's another loss. But real quick, before we get into that, I want to talk about the fact that this week is the trade deadline. I believe it's Tuesday, which is tomorrow at 4 p.m. So make sure you follow me on Instagram. My handle is right below at New York Giants fangirl because that's where I am up to date. I post everything there on my stories. I'll go live on there if the Giants trade anyone or get anyone. So anyway, just keep that in mind for the trade deadline tomorrow. This is my Instagram at New York Giants fangirl for those of you who aren't following. And, I was at the game yesterday. You could see my updates and tailgates and all sorts of fun stuff from there. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. So the Giants lose 27-22 at home to the Commanders. Now, we finally saw on offense a good football game. Not great, but a good football game at home. And I have been at almost every Giants home game this year. I skipped the Bengals game because I was like, I'm done with these night games. It's enough. This team sucks. I'm not getting home at 2:00 in the morning after a loss. And I'm real glad that I didn't go to that because I didn't miss much. But I did get a Lawrence Taylor bobblehead, which I was going to show you guys. It's still in my car, so I'll show you next time. In the meantime, this is my Eli bobblehead, which was just missing the arm. Now it's missing the stand because Marcy, my English bulldog, you will also see her on my Instagram, walked right into my desk. Boom, plopped over. Anyway, I'll get that fixed, and then I'll show you the Lawrence Taylor run. So we finally saw multiple touchdowns at home. We saw a rushing touchdown from Daniel Jones, and then we saw two receiving touchdowns, two in one game. One of them, the first one, to who exactly everyone predicted who it was going to be. Tight end Chris Manhertz. It wasn't any of our running backs. It wasn't Wan'Dale Robinson. It wasn't Malik Nabers, any of our wide receivers. No, it was superstar tight end Chris Manhertz. Like I said, exactly as we expected it. And then the second one to rookie tight end Theo Johnson. So I'm happy for him. He got his first touchdown. I do really like Theo Johnson. We'll get into more details when I talk about the offense in a minute. But overall, we finally saw a good offensive game. We saw Daniel Jones move the ball well. We saw receivers make some really nice catches. We actually saw success running the ball. Tyrone Tracy had a great game. Even Singletary had some great rushes. So, we were finally able to do things offensively that we have not been able to do at home in 672 days. Daniel Jones has not been able to do it. And we finally do it. We put up 22 points. And the defense said, suck it. We're not going to help you. You're on your own. So that's great. All right, let's get into the offense. Something that I want to talk about, because I was just looking at the team stats too, sorry, before we get into the offense, is I was just looking down everything. The first downs, passing first downs, rushing first downs, third down efficiency, fourth down efficiency, total plays, yards, rushing, everything almost across the board was pretty much the same. Time of possession, there was a 4-minute difference. Who won the time of possession battle? The New York Giants. Who lost the game? The New York Giants. So it was very close. And what's really interesting is it didn't feel close at all. The first half, we finally score a touchdown. We're like, yes, maybe the Giants offense is going to get some momentum going here. And then the defense can't make a stop to save their life. And they go down, 21-7 at the half. And I'm just like, at halftime, like, I'm making bets. Like, I'm going to take Terry McLaurin 2-time touchdown score. I did it right before he scored the second one. I did Austin Eckler 2-time touchdown scorer. And then I did Noah Brown anytime, because I'm watching this defense play and I'm just like, they have no shot. Like, the Commanders might actually put up 45 points. Like, that's what I was feeling going into halftime, because it was so depressing. And what's even more depressing is that, like I said, like, the offense was really moving the ball. Okay. Daniel Jones, in the first half, he was not. I was dying because everyone's sending me this stat that's like, this is Daniel Jones in a nutshell, right? He's got 4 attempts for 0 yards and 1 touchdown. Like, Only the Giants. That is a stat line that makes sense going into the half. So they focused on rushing the ball. They did a great job. Tyrone Tracy, 16 carries, 66 yards. Daniel Jones, 7 for 54. Singletary, 7 for 33. And Slayton, 1 for 11. So, 164 yards. They were efficient running the ball, which they haven't been doing that consistently this year. And I said this going into this game, is that my frustration with Daboll is that the game plans are never consistent. There's never a balance of throwing the ball and running the ball. And I get it. For the most part, you have to stick what works, right? When you have a quarterback who's afraid to throw the ball 10 yards, I understand why you're not passing the ball 10 yards on every freaking play. But then why are you doing that 3 weeks ago? Like, make it make sense. You either trust the quarterback to do that or you don't. So then this game, there were 4 attempts in the first half of throwing the ball, which again, stick with the run game. It's working, but at some point you have to be able to pass the ball. And they did in the second half. So Jones's final stat line is 20 for 26, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and 2 sacks for 12 yards. His quarterback rating was 72.5. So overall, a good game from Daniel Jones. He made smart decisions. He had some really nice throws, had a few we'd like to take back. The 2-point conversions we're going to talk about in a second. That is something separate. But, the fumble was awful. Chris Hubbard is our left tackle because this front office doesn't understand that getting a swing tackle should have been a priority for the second year in a row now. But overall, I felt like Daniel Jones played way better than I expected him to, because I literally went into this game being like, yes, we're probably going to lose, but we're probably going to lose and we're probably only going to score field goals because we're not going to score touchdowns. So the fact that we scored 3 touchdowns was miraculous in and of itself. And I did say going into the game that Daboll is probably going to go for 2 if we even score touchdowns because he doesn't trust the kicker. What does he do? They score a touchdown, they get the extra point, and then down by 14, let's panic and go for 2 instead of kicking a field goal every time to get there. All right. We're going to end the offensive segment with the play calling. So I want to continue on for the stats for a second. We talked about the rushing attempts. Jones had that beautiful run too, which was really nice to see. Tyrone Tracy, great job, averaging 4.1 yards. His longest was 10. So we didn't see, huge bursts and, 20, 30, 40 yard runs from Tracy, like we have seen a little bit in the past, but they were still effective in running the ball. You need to get those chunk plays at some point, but you've got Daniel Jones, who had a 24-yard one. That was his longest. And then Singletary's longest was 15 and Slayton was 11. So, they did have some chunk plays. Theo Johnson's 35-yard reception was the biggest one, with Daniel Jones' 24-yard run being the one right behind it. So overall, good day for the rushing attempt. I've been saying this for a while that I want to see Daniel Jones run the ball more. And, when he had that beautiful run, I'm like, this is why. This is what we like to see, right? You gotta get it. And I know everyone's worried about the injury settlement. I get it, but it seems like the front office does not give a shit about that. When they're running quarterback sneaks on 4th and 1, they don't care about the injury settlement. Do you know what I mean? So just have him run the ball. Okay, let's talk about the receiving. Nabers on 11 targets, 9 receptions for 59 yards. His longest was 16, average 6.6 at a reception. Great. Theo Johnson, 3 receptions out of 6 targets for 51 yards. And again, his longest was 35. I really like Theo Johnson, and I think he's ultimately going to be fine. When I complain about the drops with guys like him and Nabers, I do give it a little asterisk, like these guys are rookies, Theo was not drafted number 6 overall, so there's a little bit of a difference there, but I think that they really have thrown Theo into the fire, and he either sinks or swims. He either has games where he drops literally everything that comes his way, or he has games where he catches everything that comes his way. So the thing that I really liked about him yesterday was he showed some resilience, because he had 3 drops. I think 2 out of the 3 were perfect balls that he should have caught. So, when he was able to make it up, not only with that touchdown, but having the huge other catches that he was able to make, that's what I want to see, especially from a young guy like him. I get worried about these guys and the confidence, right? Which is such a stupid thing to say. because they get paid millions of dollars to play football. Like, I get it. But also, we've seen what has happened to Daniel Jones, and no one is going to watch Daniel Jones play football and say that he looks like a very confident quarterback. It's just not true. And there's a million reasons for that. So confidence is a part of it. So anyway, I'm happy that Theo Johnson was able to, not get stuck in his head. He was able to make those plays, and they were really big plays. One of them being that huge touchdown that, got them right back in the game after, the defense couldn't do anything about it. So that was nice. Darius Slayton went 3 for 3. First time in a long time for 49 yards. Longest was 23. Wan'Dale Robinson went 3 for 4 for 10 yards. And the longest one was 10 yards. So not his best game. That goes into the play calling. We'll talk about that. Tyrone Tracy, 1 for 1 for 3 yards. And then Chris Manhertz, 1 for 1 for 2 yards with that touchdown. So overall, the receiving was 20 receptions for 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, and averaging 8.7 yards per reception. And the rushing attempt was averaging 5.3. So, stats like that, averaging 5.3 yards per carry and 8.7 per reception for this offense is pretty damn good. So, overall, I feel like they did a relatively good job. Again, compared to our expectations, we've all seen the home games. We've all seen how they play home versus away. It's wildly drastic and different. So, anyway, I was impressed with the offense that they were able to move the ball mostly successfully and score touchdowns. Coffee sip break. Okay, let's talk about the play calling and the 2-point conversions. This is my theory on why Daboll has been going for the 2-point conversions this year. First of all, he's 0 for 6 on 2-point conversions, in case you were wondering. First of all, I understand the analytics is part of it, right? We talked about this with the Yankees and with baseball. The analytics is a big part of it. But the thing is, the analytics doesn't take into effect who your quarterback is, who your offensive line is, whether or not your receivers can get open, and whether or not you're going to get back in the red zone again. So part of me feels like the reason why Daboll is going for 2, especially in this game, was that he plays scared. And he was like, I don't know when we're going to get in the red zone again. So the fact that we're here and we scored a touchdown, we have to get as many points as we can. I genuinely think that's what it is. We've said this about him. He plays scared. He's not always aggressive. He doesn't always play to win. He plays not to lose. And I really think that when you're doing things like that, when you're down by 14 points and you're going for 2, and at that point you are 0 for 4 on the season, like, you can't just base it off the analytics. Your quarterback is not Joe Burrow. Your offensive line is not the Lions' offensive line. So I get the analytics side of things, but at some point you have to use your brain and put in human error and the players and understand that they are not the same. Just like when we talk about the defense, and we could talk about Shane Bowen, that with the Titans, he had one of the best run defenses in the league. And this is allegedly, according to Hard Knocks, one of the reasons why Daboll loved him and why they hired them. And then yesterday, the run defense, again, for the 100th time this season, gets destroyed. So yes, Shane Bowen, who's really good against the run, supposedly, as a coach, is great. Not great with these personnel. They can't stop the run. So same thing with the analytics. You're 0 for 6 now on the season on the analytics. You got a kicker that actually made it in. I understand the first time around in Washington, okay? You've got a backup kicker who doesn't make it. I understand the next time you go for 2. That is a little bit more rational thinking. Forget about what the analytics said. I understand that. And we can all say that we see both sides of it there, okay? And this time around, I like the aggressiveness. I have said I really think that one of the reasons why Daboll had success in 2022, one of the reasons why he was coach of the year, was he was aggressive, he played to win the game, and he stuck to his guns. And like Dan Campbell, you're either aggressive or you're not. But if you're going to be one, be consistent with it. He was consistent. He went for it on 4th down. The Giants go 2 for 2 on 4th down conversions. Amazing. But then when you don't make it the first time and you have a competent kicker, like, wait till the end of the game to do that. I don't know why you're doing it now when you could have just cut the lead to 7 instead of, now you're down 8 or 10, whatever it was. It's just like, it's just frustrating. I just felt like it was not necessary to do that. And with that being said, like talking about the play calling, it's just like I have a problem with the game plan. And listen, we don't really know what Mike Kafka does. We don't know how involved he is. Supposedly he's involved with the game planning. Ultimately, Daboll makes the final decisions. Okay. Kafka can say whatever he wants. It's up to Daboll to make these decisions. And again, I get that the running was working in the first half, but keep throwing the ball. Like, what? There's never any balance with this team. And in the second half, it was a little bit more consistent. We saw a little bit of the run and a little bit of the passing. And you have to pass the ball at that point because you're down by 14 points. So, you don't have time to milk the clock and have 15-minute drives. Okay. We don't have time for that. So, and get 5 yards of carry on every play. So I don't know. I just really get frustrated by Daboll's inconsistency. I think ultimately that's my biggest problem with him as a coach is inconsistency in all areas. It's the play calling that's inconsistent. It's the aggressiveness that's inconsistent. It's the clock management that's inconsistent. Although generally I think he's typically pretty bad at it. But again, why do you have no timeouts left in the end of the fourth quarter when the Commanders have 3 timeouts at that point and it's about to be the 2-minute warning? You could have gotten the ball back. I get that you don't trust the defense to make stops. Fine. They probably would have scored a touchdown there. Let's be honest. But maybe you should have made some adjustments earlier on the defense to make some plays. And at the end of the day, it comes down to execution. But Shane Bowen has a problem with the running the soft defenses too, which is also an issue. Why, when the Commanders 3rd and 18, they get 24 yards? What is happening here? So with that, let's transition over to the defense. Micah McFadden led the team with 11 tackles. You guys, they didn't have a single sack this game. Not a single sack. The first time they played Washington, they had 5 sacks. 5. And I keep making this joke. I was saying it to the Commanders players behind me yesterday. I'm like, do they cover him in butter before the games? Like, literally no one can tackle this guy. He weighs 100 pounds soaking wet, okay? Maybe 180 at the most. You're going to tell me that any one of those defensive players who probably weighs a shitload more than him can't tackle him? I know he's fast. I'm watching it too. The missed tackles on him are atrocious, which again goes back to the stopping the run. Okay, the lack of tackling is insane. We really miss Kayvon with that, and even the first time around, the run defense was bad, and we had Kayvon in the game. I don't know what the answer is aside from better linebackers, and defensive backs, and another good defensive lineman opposite Dexter Lawrence. Nacho's usually pretty good against the run. Not so much yesterday. He had 5 tackles. They had 69 total tackles, 31 solo, 3 tackles for loss, 2 pass deflections, and 2 quarterback hits. And Azeez was the only one who had 2 of them. And again, not a single sack, not even a half a sack, nothing from anyone. Brian Burns, 1 pass deflection, Adoree, 1. The tackles for loss, Azeez, of course, Cordell Flott, and Bobby Okerke, who's behind Micah McFadden with 9 tackles. Dexter, 6. Cordell Flott, 5. Isaiah Simmons had 1. He had a snap on defense. Tomon Fox. It's just not a single interception. No turnovers for this defense. Nothing. It's like, I know Jaden Daniels is ahead of the game and he's really good for a rookie. I mean, put some pressure on the guy. They're doing an incredible job. This isn't about the fact that, because Jaden's a rookie, they should be destroying him or whatever. He's very good for a rookie. Very good. He's having an incredible season. No one is ever going to deny that. But our defense, you guys have to step up. It's ridiculous. Couldn't make a stop to save the life of them. They let the Commanders run down the field. It didn't matter who the running back is. Brian Robinson didn't even play. He didn't even play. And Chris Rodriguez, who was off the practice squad or some shit, was a rookie. 11 carries for 52 yards. And then Eckler had 11 for 42. And Jaden Daniels, 8 for 35. And then Nichols 8 for 20, 149 yards, which, listen, the Giants have given up a lot more rushing yards in a game before compared to, 149, but it's just ridiculous. You're at home. There's no excuse for this. You finally have an offense who is able to string together some points for literally once. This is the first time in 5 home games that they scored 22 points and had passing touchdowns in years. And you can't get a single stop. It's really pathetic. And you know what's frustrating to me too is that the defense was, for the first 6 games or 5 games, was the only reason that the Giants were actually in these games. And all of a sudden now they collectively just decided, well, we don't give a shit because you guys can't score points. And then they decide they're going to score points and the defense still doesn't care. It's just embarrassing. It's embarrassing across the board. And I know at this point, so many fans are like, I don't care. Good. I'm glad that they won. Like, my Giants family group chat is split on whether or not we want them to beat the Panthers. And, you look at the Saints who just lost to the Panthers yesterday. Hi, Marcy. Marcy got cleared from her surgery and now she's ready to play and a happy girl. Yes, Mama. I know I can't play with you right now. Hi. You want to say hi to the camera? Hi. Oh, say hi. Okay. Sorry, little intermission, guys. Where's the girl? Where's the cute? Anyway, but it's what I worry about if they lose to the Panthers is that John Mara is going to throw his so-called patience out the window and have a fire sale, which I know some people want and some people don't. The way that I feel is, especially after a game like this, ultimately it's on the head coach. And I think that Daboll did, and the players did some really good things this game, especially compared to last. They finally did not have stupid offensive penalties. And I'm not counting the OPI on Slayton, because from everything I heard, that was complete bullshit. I didn't even see it when I was at the game. I was focused on Wandale, and I was like, oh my God, Wandale with the touchdown. Great. And then, I see on Twitter and all these things that even the announcers were like, that was some BS call. But ultimately, bad teams get bad calls, and the Giants are not good enough to outplay the bad calls. It just is what it is. And it sucks, but it's the truth. Until they get better and they stop making stupid mistakes, that's going to happen. But it's really just frustrating. They've played 2 games where they had complimentary football, and then every other game they flip-flop. One side of the ball does well, and then the other side of the ball is like, we're going to sit this one out, guys. We don't care. And I just am worried that if that happens with the Panthers game, all hell is going to break loose. And guys, I don't want to hear it about Bill Belichick. He's not going to come in here and save this team. He's not. Also, he's dating a 24-year-old and literally living his best life. Did you see their Halloween costume? Okay. He's got a show with Peyton Manning. He's on the Manning cast once a week. I don't get the inkling that he's dying to come back to coach football. And even if he is, there are a bunch of other teams that are going to need head coaches, a bunch of other teams who are going to be drafting quarterbacks. I don't think Bill Belichick is the solution. I think a lot of people are conveniently forgetting that this is our 4th coach in 9 years? 10 maybe? And we still don't have it figured out. So having a fire sale and firing everyone doesn't necessarily mean that the grass is greener and everything is going to get fixed. So I want the Giants to beat the Panthers. At this point in the season, I think it's the only game that they actually can win at this point. So if they go 3-14, then they're probably still going to have a top 5 pick. And it's hard to say now because there's so many other teams with 2 and 3 wins at this point. We'll see how things play out. But they have to beat the Panthers. I know that the Panthers just beat the Saints and the Saints just fired their head coach. Like I have seen a lot of embarrassing losses for the Giants. I think that losing to the Panthers at this point would be the icing on the cake. It would just be too much. So that's where I'm at. You guys let me know in the comments what you feel about the Panthers game. I think we might be a little bit split on this. I do think I get a lot of questions about what's going to happen with the quarterback situation. You can't bench Jones after a game like yesterday. I mean, the 2-point conversions, at some point you got to say, throw the ball away. Taking a sack is not going to help. No one being open is also not helping his case. And, I just get the feeling that after the Panthers game is when they will bench Jones because of the injury guarantee. Now, Daboll, as we all know, is wildly stubborn, so I'm not so sure, but that's kind of what I'm leaning towards right now. Now, I want to talk about one more thing, and then we'll call it a day here. I don't think they showed this on TV because I have not heard anyone else talking about this except for Bob Papa and Carl Banks. I was at the game yesterday and I saw something that really pissed me off. And this is what it was for those of you who didn't see it. During one of the timeouts towards the end of the game, the Giants are on offense and they have the ball. So it's a timeout, commercial break. Where is Malik Nabers? Instead of being in the huddle and on the field with his team, he is on the Commander's sideline talking to Jaden Daniels. I am dead fucking serious, you guys. I'm not making this up. And I'm watching him and I'm like, is this really happening? You are down by whatever it was at that point, 8 points. I think it was, I don't know, 24-16. I think it was at that point. You are down by 8 points. You are driving the ball. I don't give one iota of a fuck that you guys are friends. You are enemies on the field right now. You are enemies. And, I'm anti the boomer take that's like, this generation is soft and you guys blah, blah, blah. But you guys fucking raised us, okay? You want to complain that we're spoiled and this and that and the other thing? Rethink your parenting styles, okay? It's too late for you, but think about it with your grandkids. I am so not okay with that, okay? As a millennial, you are enemies. And this is what I mean when everyone's like, oh, give Saquon a break. He's on a different team. That is our fucking enemy. End of discussion. I don't care that Giants fans or any other teams in the division up until this point have not given any respect to the Commanders because they have not deserved it. They have been a very bad team for a long time, like the Giants, to be fair. But you guys are enemies. You are at war on the field. What the hell are you doing on the Commander's sideline shooting the shit with Jaden Daniels? I do not care how close of friends you are. You guys can talk before the game. You guys can talk after the game. You can talk the second the game's over. You can call each other all night. I don't give a shit. And you can talk about whatever the fuck you want to talk about. Not during the game. And the fact that Brian Daboll was not over there grabbing him by the back of his jersey and yanking him across the field, that's what I would have been doing. And I would have been like, at this point, I'm hanging on by a thread about whether or not I'm going to be here next year. I don't care. That is embarrassing. You are at home. You are at home where you are losing to the fucking Commanders with no help from you because you apparently can't get open. And then you're going to bitch and moan in your press conferences. Oh, that I was open. I did my job. And then he has the nerve. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really going on Nabers here. I am so not in the fucking mood for him right now. Then he has the nerve in his post game to say that when he was asked about why in the first half, they were only running the ball and, how come he didn't get any targets? And he goes, he says, well, it's not about, you got to ask the play calling. I just do what they tell me to. I do what the play calling says. Shut the fuck up. Seriously. This is not okay. And this is what I worry about with losing the locker room. And I understand he's a rookie, guys. I understand he's going to say stupid shit. It is week 9? It's enough, okay? It is enough. You're not going to tell me that Daboll and the media team have not had conversations with him, that he has not had media training about what he's supposed to say and what he's not supposed to say. And I understand the players are frustrated. You've got Brian Burns last week saying that people need to grow up. Good. As the leader in this locker room who came from the goddamn Panthers and came over here and thought that maybe you were going to win some games, you have every right to be frustrated. If I am Dexter Lawrence, I would be wanting to whoop these younger players' ass. I would be like, I am literally going to sit on you and suffocate you until you shut up. I hope that that's exactly what Dexter and Burns did. That when the media left and they had some privacy in that locker room, that one, if not the both of them or anyone else, Bobby O'Connor, I don't care who it is, any of them should have walked over to him and said, shut the fuck up. You do not say that in press conferences, okay? You have to understand the media is not on your side. They're not. Do I sound like I'm on Nabers' side right now? And I'm not part of the media? I'm sure as hell not, because it's not okay for you to do things like that. That's all I'm going to say about that. Because these exactly were the things about my concerns about getting him. And I don't care what you all think about Shedeur Sanders. You think he's going to come in, and after seeing Nabers, if he's paid attention to the Giants this year and he sees what Nabers is coming out and saying in the post game, he's going to think, yeah, I can come here and do the same shit. And it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And I don't ever want to fucking hear it from him again. Okay, that's the end of the podcast. Thank you guys for listening. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. I am headed to Germany. I'm headed there on Friday night. So I will do a preview podcast on Thursday. It'll be out before I leave. But next week, there will be no podcast because I'm staying in Germany, regardless of how the game goes. I'm staying there with my mom, and I'm going to enjoy a little Germany vacation. So no podcast next week. I will have one on Thursday before I go. And again, make sure you follow me on Instagram. We will talk trade deadlines and all sorts of stuff tomorrow. I do a Q&A every Tuesday. So if you've got any questions that don't get answered in the comments here, send them over to my Instagram on Tuesday. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. I know this season sucks, but I appreciate you guys all being here and tuning in and, all commiserating together. We're in it together, and we will be here when the times get better, which is hopefully going to be next year with the new quarterback. So thank you guys for listening. And as always, go Giants.